I read a total of 8.5 books in the month of September. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on those books, please keep on watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Favor's Flavor. My name is Favor. I'm very happy to see you guys. I've gotten a lot of subscribers in the last couple of weeks, and if you're one of them, thank you for subscribing and welcome. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get right into the video. So this video is going to be about my September wrap up. Since the start of my reading journey about 5 months ago, September was my best reading month yet. I read a total of about 8.5 books. I have 7 of them right here. One of them was a library pick, and one of them I finished in the month of October, and I will talk about it briefly. And before I talk about this September wrap up, I just want to mention 2 books that I'm currently reading. The first book I'm reading right now is The Love Songs for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. This book has disappointed me. I had such high expectations for this book, especially after reading Real by Kennedy Ryan. I thought that's kind of what it was going to be given, but I do not like it. Honestly, I should have DNF'd it, but after DNFing the book that I will talk about, I was like, okay, can't be DNFing left and right. Let me try to finish it. And thankfully, I have the audiobook on Libby. That's literally how I'm getting to listen to this book. I'm really sad that I don't like this because this is my first Tia Williams book. Yeah, if there's anything this book has taught me is I do not like magical realism, or at least maybe in this book, I'm willing to try another magical realism book. Right now, I'm not exactly having a good time with this book. The other book I'm currently reading is Fast by Millie Belizaire. This is my book club pick. We're supposed to be discussing it in about 2 weeks, so I should be done with it by then. So far, I'm enjoying this book. It's a really sad book with a lot of trigger warnings, so if you end up picking it up, have that in mind. But so far, the writing's good, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm about 30% through, so I'm hoping that once I'm finally done with A Love Song for Rick Wilde, I'll be able to focus my attention on this book. So now let's get right into all the books that I read in the month of September. So the first book I want to talk about is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. I started this book in August, but I finished it in the first week of September. So I talked about it in my August wrap up, I believe, but I want to talk about it here again because this was a good book. I rated it 4.5 stars, and if you guys are not already, follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph. So far, Storygraph has been better for me than Goodreads, but I'll still be posting my ratings on Goodreads. This book, honestly, was perfect except 2 things that I mentioned. The pop culture references in this book was a little cheesy at some point because the one I can remember was where they talked about naming their child Cisco and Nose. I was like, okay. The other thing is, I feel like this book is almost 500 pages. They could have easily, maybe not easily, but at least 50 pages could have been taken off. It didn't need to be like 496, I think is what this book is. But I highly recommend for anybody that's in like their mid to late 20s. All I can say is pick it up if you haven't already. I definitely enjoyed my time with this book. The next book I read in the month of September was The Woman by Kristen Hanna. This was my other book club pick. I rated that book at 2.5 stars. Honestly, I didn't think I was not going to like it as much as I did. It was not a bad book, but it was more of like a biography of the one nurse, Frankie. I wish they talked more about the other 2 friends. Like, I wish it was more of like maybe a 3 parts where they talk about Frankie's life and then the 2 other nurses. It was just a ton of Frankie's bad luck, or her cousin herself bad luck, just series of bad occurrences after bad occurrences after bad occurrences. I'm just like, what is this? I did not enjoy the book. It was also one of those books, just like the Tia Williams books, that I had the audiobook on Libby, so that's what literally forced me to finish the book. I don't know why people like this book. Even as a nurse and an OR nurse, I really thought I was gonna like relate more to the character. I couldn't relate. Even at the end where she had this whole life-changing stuff, I was like, you wouldn't have been able to do that if your parents wasn't rich and if you wasn't white. I just didn't enjoy the book. That's just me. So the next book that I read in the month of September is You've Got a Place Here Too by Ebony Liddell, or edited by Ebony Liddell. This book has, I think, a total of 12 stories by Black authors, and all the stories are based on HBCU campuses. I rated this book at 3.5 stars. I enjoyed, I would say, half of the stories, and it's YA, so most of it wasn't outstanding to me. I would say that the one story that I was like, WTF, like, what is this, is The Masti. I was so confused, and I listened to this book on audiobook too. I read part of it physical and audiobook. I did immersive reading. that was like so weird. I don't understand why that story needed to be in this book. But regardless, I rated it 3.5 stars. Not a bad pick, especially for someone like me. I love short story collections. I'm happy I have it. The next book that I read in the month of September was The Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. This was my first sci-fi book, but I wouldn't say this book is like sci-fi per se. It's literary fiction with elements of sci-fi, and the author is Nigerian. I believe I rated this book a 4.25 stars. I had a good time with it. It was a little slow in the beginning, and the main character, Zelu, was insufferable for like most of the book. But I enjoyed it so much, and the Nigerian references were good. And Nnedi, she tried to do a lot with this book, and she definitely did a good job. But I can see how some people might be thrown off by it, because she tried to weave in the disability aspect, being black aspect, the sci-fi aspect, being an author aspect. So there was a lot of stuff that she was able to add onto this book that might be confusing for some. But I had a good time reading this book. So the next book I read in the month of September was This Motherless Land by Nikki May. If you watched one of my productive weekend vlogs, I had a portion where I went to a coffee shop and read this book there. I already gave a lot of my comments on this book in that video, but I rated this book at 3.75. Honestly, I'm not sure what was going on in September. I was just feeling like I wanted to DNF a lot of books, and this was one that I felt like I wanted to DNF about like 30 to 40% in. I'm kind of glad I stuck it out, because it ended up being not a bad book. It's about two cousins, Liv and Funke, their relationship. I believe Nikki May is a half Nigerian, half British author. I enjoyed this book. The only thing like I wish had happened in this book was that Liv's mom, Margot, had gotten some type of repercussions for all of her actions, because she was basically the villain in this book, and I did not like the fact that she did not like suffer for all the stuff she caused. So the next book that I read in the month of September was my first 5-star read, and imagine my delight after all the books that I read so far and getting to like get my first 5-star. And that book is The Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolf. This is a small book. It's literally 220 pages, I want to say. The audiobook is about 6 hours long. You can read this book in one sitting. This is so wonderful because I know nothing about the project in Chicago or Detroit. Toya Wolf was able to literally catapult me into that life. And I listened to the audiobook, which I totally recommend, because just hearing the accents and stuff, it's different than just reading the book. This is such a sad but wonderful book. I like how she was able to put so much in this small book. All I can say is read it. I guess I'll read a brief blurb. It says, profound, reverent, and uplifting. Last Summer on State Street explores the risk of connection against the backdrop of racist institutions, the restorative power of knowing and claiming one's own past, and those defining relationships that form the heartbeat of our lives. Interweaving moments of reckoning and sustaining grace, debut author Toya Wolf has crafted an era-defining story of finding a home both in one's history and in oneself. And yeah, it's a debut book too. All I can say is please read this book if you can. I had a good time. I enjoyed this book. That's all I can say. I enjoyed it, and you might just enjoy it too. The next book that I read in the month of September was 24 Seconds From Now by Jason Reynolds. This book is a really short book. On audiobook, it's about 4 hours. So if you're someone that's interested in this book, it would not take you long at all. It's a YA romance. This book is about Neon and about his first time with his girlfriend. And I like how this book is set up, because it's like 24 seconds ago, 24 minutes ago, 24 days ago, 24 weeks ago, 24 months ago. So it's like pretty like smart and interesting way of setting up a book as opposed to like chapters. I rated this book at 3.75. It's a great book if you're into YA or you're a young adult yourself. You might enjoy this book. So the last book that I read in the month of September was A Broken People's Playlist by Chimeka Garrix. I talked about this book in my last weekend vlog, so if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts, it's in that video. But this was my second 5-star read. I was just like, okay, I guess the month is starting to pick up at the end of the month, because having Last Summer on State Street as a 5-star and then this as a 5-star, I was happy to end the month that way. This is a short collection story, and if you don't know anything about me, I love short story collections. This book is so sad but beautiful. Each story is based on an actual song. I like the fact that it's not set in Lagos, it's set in Port Harcourt, which is a different side of Nigeria. If you're someone that still lives in Nigeria, or you still have connections in Nigeria and you're not like rich, you will know that some of these stories are literally not exaggerations. A lot of people in Nigeria are broken. And this book was just so sad and profound at the same time. Let's see, it says, infused with the author's rhythmic storytelling, sublime wit, and insight, each page will spark something in you, and like a favorite song, long linger in your heart and mind. Honestly, out of all the stories, I couldn't tell you anyone that I hated. There's one overarching theme in this book, and that's like men being unfaithful and stuff. And I'm just gonna say, it is true. There's a lot of Nigerian men, especially of a certain age, a lot of them are not faithful, they cheat and all that kind of stuff. So if that bothers you, it's talked about a lot in this book. If you're Nigerian, you would know. That's what I'm gonna say. But even if you're not Nigerian, this is a great book if you want to get into like Nigerian literature. Now I'm gonna talk about the last book that I read but I DNF, and that is Goddess Complex by Sanjina Sathian. Honestly, that book might have been satire and I missed the whole point. I did not have a good time. I was 31% in when I had to be like, yeah, I just wasted my Spotify listening hours on this book. 31% in, and I still didn't get the point of the book. I was like, it feels like torture trying to continue reading this book. So I'm glad I just dropped it. I returned it back to the library. And the other book that I started, but I finished in the month of October, is The Full Picture by Jessica Carmichael. I enjoyed my time with this book. Like I've said before, I'm not really good with reading ebooks on my phone, so it took me a longer time to read the book. The book itself is a YA, coming of age, romance, talks about grief. I believe I rated that book at 4.5 stars, and I can talk about it more in my October wrap-up, but I just want to mention it here because I technically started reading it in the month of September. So these were all the books that I read in the month of September. If you guys have read any of these books, please comment down below. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you're still watching, honestly, give this video a thumbs up, and I hope you comment, subscribe, and come back to my next video. Thank you. Bye.